Roll and fall. So you see, this is a great opportunity to engage in mercantile practices. Hugh realised that even when the Grendel were trying to be pleasant and offer an actually good deal, they couldn't help but use euphemisms. Right, so you want us to go to Spiral? What for? Spiral first, yes, but then east, across the mountains. Into Axos? Hugh worried that he was a little too drunk to be talking to a Grendel. The orc smiled broadly, revealing the red gemstones set into several of her teeth. Oh, no, said the merchant, refilling his goblet. In fact, some of the Axu are already committed to our grand project, in fact. No, I'm talking about the people who live between the Empire and Axos. People who are the worst kind of hoarders. Your own spies reported that they aren't even bothering to quarry white granite anymore, they're so complacent. People whose very existence is an offence against prosperity, even before we look too closely at their strange religious practices. Then who are you talking about? Hugh wanted the Grendel to stop talking around the subject and get to the point. If she didn't, he was going to drink his drink. But after that, he might well leave the table and go to bed. I'm talking about the people of Sark. The North Mariv Trading Consortium knows that they are sitting on great stockpiles of white granite and mithril, materials that they have no use for, but that we and our allies could make properly prosperous use of, if we are audacious enough to seize them. Hugh frowned. He'd heard of the people of Sark. They'd been quite the topic of conversation a little while ago. Aren't all their passes guarded by massive fortifications, though? He asked, wondering if he had missed something. You'd need an army to get through the mountains, wouldn't you? The Grendel's eyes and teeth sparkled as she topped up both their goblets and gestured for another bottle to be brought to the table. Indeed, but that, my friend, is where you come in. Overview. A Grendel paymaster is planning to raid the Mountains of the Moon and has approached the Empire with an opportunity. A Dornish knightly order is recruiting people to oppose the Grendel raid. There are serious issues of legality with both plans. In the guild halls of Sarvos and the taverns of Necropolis, in the paradors of Madruga and the inns of Redoubt, there are orcs of the Broken Shore visiting on behalf of Paymaster Muriel, one of the entrepreneurs associated with the North Mariv Trading Consortium. There, they offer to buy a drink for any Imperials willing to listen to what they have to say about a chance to take part in a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, join a raid into the Mountains of the Moon. The people who live there, an unsettling mixture of orcs and humans, arrogantly think to keep themselves separate from the rest of the world. They have great wealth, but they do not use it. They are even content to leave their rich white granite quarry unworked, and to ignore the immense wealth of mithril that lies beneath their feet. This is surely a terrible offence against the shared Imperial and Grendel virtue of prosperity. Paymaster Muriel has hired Moridun from the Broken Shore, who thanks to the peace treaty have nothing better to do. She has bought a copy of the map of Zark from the Chambers of Issyk in Axos. With promises of support for rebuilding their citadel, she has secured the aid of elite sappers and engineers from the tunnels of Kaban. She has also secured a large number of porters whose role will be to carry all the loot she expects to claim back into Spiral. She is confident she will be able to breach the defences of the Mountains of the Moon, but to truly get the most out of these apparently peaceful people of Tark, she wants Imperial assistance. The more strength she can bring to bear, the further into Sark the raid can reach, and the more of the wealth of the Mountains of the Moon can be redistributed to those who will make the best use of it. As the seriousness of Paymaster Muriel's offer becomes clear, some voices are raised in opposition. The Order of the Gilded Sceptre, a Dornish knightly order that suffered greatly at the hands of the Druge, denounces it as an inglorious attack against unsuspecting folk. They are supported by a faction of the Purple Sails Mercantile Alliance, who still believe that the Empire can eventually secure economic links with the Mountains of the Moon, once Zenith or Spiral are back in Imperial hands, of course. They propose to take action to prevent the Grendel-led raid ever breaching the Mountains of the Moon. The Paymaster's Plan. Paymaster Muriel will take full responsibility for the raid. Paymaster Muriel has staked all her personal wealth and that of an unknown number of investors on the raid being a success. She is confident her forces will breach the mountains, but lacks the pure numbers to really make the most of the situation. The fortifications of the Mountains of the Moon make it difficult for actual armies to gain any sort of beachhead. In Nausini alone it would need multiple armies just to counteract the influence of the fortification. Smaller forces working in concert, however, will be able to take the higher passes, bypassing the strongest fortifications and guardhouses that prevent anyone from outside reaching the people of Tsark. The plan is that Imperial military units will make their own way to Ossuary in Spiral. The mercenaries will spend as little time there as possible before crossing the peaks to the east and making their way down to Nausini, bypassing the Mislitel Pass. After that, with sufficient numbers and the element of surprise, the mercenaries will be able to capture Krug and the disk of the Ogledano, and from there move south into Borenge and claim the bounty of Kamen Quarry. The details of the contract offered are relatively simple. In addition to payment based on the number of soldiers in a warband, any Imperial military unit that joins the raid will be able to keep whatever wealth they can claim. Once the raid is complete, a lottery will be held and a portion of the white granite and mithril claim distributed among the captains of the military units that took part. Protecting the passes. The Order of the Gilded Scepter calls on the Empire to protect the people of Tsark. They are supported by a faction of purple sales merchants. The Order of the Gilded Scepter was a knightly order based in Drykastle in the Barrens. They lost everything when the Druge conquered Dawnguard. On learning of Paymaster Muriel's plan, they are outraged. Their Knight Marshal, the septuagenarian Louis de Bacelard, denounces the scheme and that anyone who goes along with it has turned their back on glory. "Too many Imperial citizens know what it is like to have everything taken from them by greedy raiders," he declares. "Glory lies not in stealing and murdering, but in protecting those who cannot protect themselves, whether they be Imperial citizens or not." The Gilded Scepter intend to do everything in their power to stop the Grendel attack. They know from speaking to some of the spies who mapped the territory that there are guard posts in the mountains that the people of Tsark do not always garrison fully. They will seek out such a guard post and use it to stop the massively superior Grendel force, or die trying. They welcome anyone who is prepared to come and fight alongside them, but make it clear that they will not be paying anyone. Knight Marshal Louis instead believes that the glory to be found in courageously saving the peaceful people of Tsark from the depredations of the North Mariv Trading Consortium will be reward enough, or as one scoffing critic phrases it, "The true treasure will be the friends we made along the way." Those who know Louis and the surviving dozen or so knights of the Gilded Scepter privately believe that this is a suicide mission, that the veteran knights are seeking a glorious ending rather than embrace the slow slide into obscurity and death. However, the Order of the Gilded Scepter are not alone. A faction of the Purple Sails, the loose alliance of merchants and traders who are constantly looking for ways to improve imperial trade, think that Knight Marshal de Bazelard has a point. The people of Tsark have rebuffed attempts at negotiation or trade, content to remain behind their mountain walls. Cynically, this raid by the Grendel actually represents an opportunity to penetrate their aloof defence in a diplomatic fashion. This faction is prepared to put its money where its mouth is, offering to pay anyone prepared to support the Order of the Gilded Scepter and stymie Paymaster Muriel's plan. They are confident that when the people of Tsark see Imperial citizens prepared to fight to protect them, they will have no choice but to open diplomatic channels. And once they do that, the Empire's diplomats will be able to pave the way for traders and merchants to gain access to their sweet, sweet wealth. Problems of legality. The people of Tsark are technically foreigners, since the Senate has not explicitly defined any relationship with them. Fighting against the Grendel and Aksu force would mean killing people who are explicitly foreigners. The Senate will need to decide if anyone can become involved in either of these situations. The problem is that, much as it is with the attack on Chalonsio, Everyone involved is technically a foreigner. There is no way to be involved in the raid without killing people in Sark. There is no way to be involved in the defence of the Mountains of the Moon without killing Grendel and potentially Aksu warriors. As such, it is illegal for anyone to get involved on either side, unless the Senate is prepared to step in and express their will to the magistrates. If the Senate does nothing, no Imperial military unit will be able to take part in the raid, but neither will they be able to act to defend the Mountains of the Moon. This Wind of Fortune and the mandates below will do nothing. Paymaster Muriel will penetrate the Mountains of the Moon and achieve her default success level. The people of Sark will not connect anything that is happening to the Empire, for good or ill. Just as with the attack on Shaloncio, however, the Senate could pass a motion with a similar wording to that used to allow Imperial military units to take part in the Asavean Civil War. They could explicitly empower military units to serve as mercenaries for Paymaster Muriel, or they could phrase it in such a way that it is legal to fight either for the Grendel or alongside the Gilded Scepter in return for payment by the Purple Sails. While in theory they could make it legal only to defend the people of Sark, in practice that would not be effective. While Salt Lord Kaliact is not involved in this raid, there is no way she will allow large numbers of Imperial soldiers to pass through Spiral if the only place they could be going were to the Mountains of the Moon to slaughter Grendel adventurers. If the Senate wishes to allow military units to defend the people of Sark, they will need to make both actions legal, and trust to the virtue of the Empire's war leaders. The Raid. Imperial military units can join the raid against the Mountains of the Moon, or they can fight to protect the people of Sark. During the coming season, assuming the Senate chooses to allow Imperial citizens to get involved in the Mountains of the Moon, there may be one or two unique options available to players with military units. If available, the option to work as a mercenary for Paymaster Muriel will be found in the Independent Action drop-down menu, Raid the Mountains of the Moon. Enchantments that affect paid work, such as Shroud of Mist and Shadow, will be effective on military units that take this action. If available, the option to fight alongside the Gilded Scepter will be found in the Defend Fortification drop-down, Defend the People of Sark. Enchantments that support a military unit when they defend a fortification, such as Aspect of the Mountain, will be effective on military units that take this action. The result of the raid will depend on how Imperial military units intervene and how many there are, assuming the Senate allows them to do so. Results. Without Imperial assistance, Paymaster Muriel's raid effectively has 10,000 strength. If the Empire does not get involved, her forces will make it through the mountains and into the Mountains of the Moon. They will raid the region of Borenge, claiming an amount of white granite, but be unable to push further into the territory. Military units that raid the Mountains of the Moon increase the effective strength of the raid, while those that defend the people of Sark deduct their effective strength from that of the raid. The outcome depends on how much strength is accumulated. In each case, the monetary rewards for those taking place in the raid are cumulative. If the raid achieves a total of 18,000 strength, for example, each military unit working for the Grendel receives 3 crowns, 2 mana crystals, 2 doses of random herbs, and a dose of Zabaravi on top of the money being offered by Paymaster Muriel. 0 strength or less. The raid is turned back. The Grendel mercenary force is turned back without being able to breach the defences of the Mountains of the Moon. Paymaster Muriel will lose everything she has invested in this scheme, and will be forced to liquidate her assets to pay her debts, or risk being sent to the salt mines in disgrace. The people of Sark will know that Imperial champions are responsible for preventing a serious invasion of the Mountains of the Moon by the rapacious Grendel. Up to 5,000. The raid is unprofitable. The mercenary force successfully reaches Nausini and is able to raid settlements at the foot of the mountains. They are unable to push further into the Mountains of the Moon, and the maesters of the Grendel are unable to acquire any wains before being forced to retreat. Paymaster Muriel will have to sell some of her assets to pay her debts, but will be able to recover from the loss. She will remain part of the North Marive Trading Consortium, although in somewhat reduced circumstances. Several hundred orcs and humans of Sark will be killed, but will know that the situation could have been much worse without Imperial intervention. 5,000 to 10,000, the default. The raid is effective but weak. The mercenary force are able to push into the region of Berenge, but are unable to push as far as Kamen Quarry. 10 wains of white granite will be put in the drawing of lots for Imperial military units. Each military unit will receive an additional 2 crowns in the form of artwork and goods taken from the people of the Mountains of the Moon. This is the default level that the Grendel will achieve if there is no Imperial opposition to their raid. 10,000 to 15,000. The raid has time to loot. The mercenary force is able to extensively loot the settlements in Nausini, especially Krug and the Disk of the Ogledano. Each military unit that took part in the raid will receive another 1 crown in goods and artwork, as well as 2 mana crystals looted from Krug. 15,000 to 20,000. In addition to looting the settlements of Nausini, the raid is able to take large amounts of mithril from settlements around Lake Sark. 5 wains of mithril will be put in the drawing of lots for Imperials, and every military unit that took part in the raid will receive 2 doses of random herbs and a dose of the unique Sark narcotic, Zabaravi. More than 20,000. The mercenary force are able to raid the Kamen Quarry. Paymaster Muriel's forces will loot dozens of wains of white granite. A further dozen wains of white granite will be added to the drawing of lots for Imperials. In addition, each military unit will receive another 1 crown in artwork and goods, and 2 ingots of random metal. Rewards for Raiders. Military units that take part in the raid will be paid by Paymaster Muriel and receive rings from luxury goods looted whilst on the raid. Some military units may be able to claim bourse resources. Paymaster Muriel is offering 7 crowns to a standard military unit that joins the raid. Upgraded or enchanted units will receive additional payment at the rate of 1 crown per extra rank they possess. Each unit will also be able to keep whatever it claims from the people of Sark. The people of Sark are not expecting a raid such as this, and they flaunt their wealth, except for wains of mithril and white granite, which will be claimed by the Grendel. In theory, the Quartermaster General could also choose to supplement the payment by assigning the guerdon to the action. After the raid, a portion of the white granite and mithril wains gained will be placed into a lottery. Those whose names are drawn will receive a wain of white granite or mithril. It will be possible for a single military unit to gain more than 1 wain, if fortune favours them. Rewards for Defenders. Military units that try to prevent the raid will be paid by the Purple Sails. The Purple Sails faction do not have the kind of wealth available that the Grendel Paymaster does. Any standard military unit that chooses to defend the people of Sark will receive 5 crowns. Upgraded or enchanted units receive additional payment at the rate of 1 crown per extra rank they possess. Diplomatic considerations. The people of Sark appear to have no interest in diplomacy with the Empire. If the Purple Sails are to be believed, there is a chance that defending against the Grendel raid might encourage the otherwise aloof people of Sark to make contact with the Empire. There is no certainty this would be the case, but the more effective the defence is, the more likely it is to yield some kind of diplomatic result. However, if the Empire acts to stop the raid, then it will damage their relations with the Grendel, and also the people of Axos. The Salt Lords will be angered, but they won't take action, and causing the raid to fail will send a message to other Grendel entrepreneurs that the Empire cannot be trusted in situations such as these. They will not present any similar opportunities for joint endeavours going forward. Likewise, most of the Grand Illarchs are unlikely to care one way or another, but it will mean that they do not include the Empire in any of their future plans for the Mountains of the Moon. Furthermore, the tunnels of Caban will see the Empire as actively opposing their efforts to rebuild, and will look elsewhere for assistance. If the raid is successful and secures at least some wains, it will demonstrate to Grendel adventurers that there are at least some people in the Empire who are practical enough to prioritise profit. They may offer another joint venture in the year or so before the peace treaty ends. The people of Axos will see that the Empire shares their interest in the wealth of the Mountains of the Moon, and likely consider them allies in future endeavours regarding the tiny nation. The tunnels of Caban will benefit greatly, receiving significant assistance in rebuilding their shattered citadel. Obviously, the people of Sark will see Imperial citizens as the enemy, but they seem to be of that opinion anyway, so nothing will actually change. The wider world is unlikely to be interested either way. The distant nations of the Sumer Republic and the Commonwealth know nothing about the Mountains of the Moon, and are unlikely to get involved in what is obviously a local matter either way. Warning Sark. The Empire does not have a valid target for the call-winged messenger ritual in the Mountains of the Moon. The easiest way to make it more difficult for the raid to make headway into the Mountains of the Moon would be to inform the people of Sark. Unfortunately, there is no valid target in the territory for the call-winged messenger ritual. If a way could be found to get a message to the Mountains of the Moon in time, from a source they would trust, then the people of Sark would mobilise to defend themselves, subtracting 5,000 strength from the effectiveness of the raid. Synod involvement. Very little is known about the religion of the people who live in the Mountains of the Moon beyond the fact that it is definitely not the way. The Imperial Synod could become involved if they wished, supporting one side or the other. Several of the Virtue Assemblies may have an opinion on how this matter should be resolved, but thanks to the fallout following the recent conflict between the General Assembly and the Virtue Assemblies, any such mandates would need to be upheld by the General Assembly to be effective. Questions of virtue. The Order of the Gilded Sceptre have made an appeal to courage. They are prepared to give their lives to protect strangers from being raided. This is the kind of arguably foolish example that some in the Courage Assembly can appreciate. However, due to the recent Synod events, the mandate will have no effect if it is raised in the Courage Assembly, even though it does not arise from a statement of principle. Instead, it must be raised in the General Assembly. Courage teaches us never to fear to act, only to be shamed by inaction. If you are filled with anger at the idea of thieving raiders, killing unsuspecting folk and stealing with impunity, then cleave to what you know is true, and follow the drumbeat of your heart to the Mountains of the Moon. We send named priest with 50 doses of Lao to urge any who wish to defend the people of Sark to join the Order of the Gilded Sceptre in their courageous cause. Synod Mandate, General Assembly. If this mandate is upheld, then it will inspire those already disgusted by the idea of attacking the people of Sark. A flat 1,000 points of strength will join the Order of the Gilded Sceptre in the defence of the people of Sark, and any military unit that takes the Defend People of Sark action will receive a +1 rank bonus when they do so. This bonus will not apply to military units from Urizen or Varushka unless the mandate achieves a greater majority. Alternatively, the Synod could back the raid against the Mountains of the Moon and give its blessing to those prepared to work for the Grendel. Those who support this viewpoint say that prosperity does not judge. The people of the Mountains of the Moon are not our allies. They are not even our friends. They hoard their wealth and show all the signs of embracing malign spiritual forces. Those prepared to work hard for Grendel coin are no different to those who work hard for any other payment, while the vigilant know the best time to strike against a future threat is now. We send named priest with 50 doses of Lao to urge any who wish to take up the offer of Paymaster Muriel to raid the Mountains of the Moon to embrace this opportunity to enrich themselves and the Empire. Synod Mandate, General Assembly. If this mandate is upheld, then it will inspire a number of mercenaries, wagon raiders and reavers to take up Paymaster Muriel's offer. A flat 1,000 points of strength will be added to the raiders' force, and any military unit that takes the Raid the Mountains of the Moon action will receive a +1 rank bonus when they do so. As before, however, this bonus will only apply to military units from Urizen and Orvarushka if the mandate achieves a greater majority. These two mandates are in competition with each other. If both are raised and both pass, then only the one that achieves the greatest margin will be effective. Questions of pride. The Order of the Gilded Scepter have planted their flag firmly, claiming that defending the people of Sark is a glorious thing to do. This has led to rumblings in other nations as well. There are those in Wintermark who consider protecting people to be significantly more heroic than stealing from them, while some among the Imperial Orcs question whether it can be right to attack a population where Orcs and humans appear to be living in harmony, just to take their wealth. On the other hand, free companies in the League and wagon raiders in Varushka alike argue that mercenary work is mercenary work, and if these people did not want their wealth taken, they should protect it better. There are also questions about whether a preemptive strike is not a bad idea in general. There are currently no mandates for the National Assemblies to raise that support either the raid or the defence against it. Any priest could, however, use the alternate mandate rules to submit a suitably worded mandate that urges their people to either defend the folk of Sark or to participate in the raid against them. As long as the wording is clear, it is likely that such mandates will require 25 Lao and grant any member of the nation who takes the approved action a +1 rank bonus, while providing a -1 rank penalty to anyone who takes the other action. There is, of course, no requirement for the National Assemblies to get involved at all.